Now, if you're new to the whole world of golf, and judging by some of the questions we get asked on social media, there is a whole load of golf vocabulary that really needs explaining. So what I'll do in this video is try to explain some of the very simple terms in golf by answering your questions. Now, I've got my marker and some paper here too to illustrate where I can. Now, the first question we get asked is, what does par mean? Well, par, as far as I'm aware, was taken from the stock exchange, would you believe, and the performance of stocks and shares in relation to par. Well, when golf course designers make their 18 golf holes, they decide how many shots a really good or expert golfer should take to complete each hole, and then that becomes the par for that hole. And really, there are three types of golf hole. There are short holes, there are medium holes, and there are long holes. So the short holes are called par 3 holes because a good golfer would be expected to complete it in 3 shots. So they would hit their first shot from the tee box straight onto the green, and then they would put their second shot up near the hole, and then they would tap it into the hole for their third shot to make a par. On the medium length holes, or par 4s, the expert golfer is expected to hit their first shot off the tee down the middle of the fairway, then hit their second shot onto the green, and again take 2 putts, always 2 putts. That's 4 shots in total, and they've made a par on the par 4. And then the longest holes, you can probably guess now, they're called par 5 holes, and what's expected, the expert golfer is expected to take 5 shots here. It's the very same principle as before, except this time they hit their first shot off the tee down the fairway, they hit their second shot a bit further down the fairway, and then they hit their third shot onto the green. Again, always allowing for 2 putts on the green. That's 5 shots altogether on the par 5. Next question is, what do the terms birdie and bogey mean? Well, back in the early 1900s in America, if something was really cool, guys would say, that's bird. And that is how golf historians explain how the term birdie came into the game of golf. If, say, you were on a par 4 hole and you got the ball into the hole in 3 shots, that's one better than the expected par. It was cool. It was bird, man. And it became known as a birdie. 1 shot under the par or better than the par is a birdie. Conversely, if it takes you 1 more shot than the par to complete a hole, you've had a bogey, and a bogey is a bad thing. The term actually comes from the Scottish goblin or devil known as the boogeyman. So if you're on a par 4 hole, but it takes you 5 shots to complete it, it's a bad thing. You've had a bogey. Now, there are a few other terms for scores on a hole that are extensions of these terms, birdie and bogey. For instance, we'll start with bogey, and if it takes you, say, 2 extra shots over the par for a hole, for example, 6 shots on a par 4, you've had a double bogey. 7 shots on a par 4 would be a triple bogey, and so on. And the bird theme continues on from having a birdie. Remember, we said that taking 1 shot less than the par to get the ball into the hole was called a birdie, like taking 3 shots on a par 4. Well, if you manage to get the ball into the hole in 2 shots less than the par, that is called an eagle. And the best players in the world nowadays, they hit the ball so far that they often play long par 5 holes in just 3 shots. So that's an eagle. And then there's what they call in golf the rarest of birds, and that's an albatross. 3 shots less than the par on any hole. That's like getting the ball in the hole in 2 shots on a par 5, or having a hole in 1 on a par 4. It has been done, mind you, many times. Next question we get asked is, what does even or even par or level par mean? They're all the same. Well, bearing in mind that explanation of par that we gave you, if you went out with your golf clubs and played the par 3s, the par 4s and the par 5s perfectly, just as we explained, and had a par on every single hole, your score would be even par or even. If you watch the top tour golfers playing in a tournament on television, they all start on even par or level par. It's just like teams starting 0-0 in a game of soccer. Which brings us to the next phrase, under par. Well, just think of the most famous golfers in the world. Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Rory McIlroy, Annika Sorenstam, and so on. They all made their fortunes by winning golf tournaments. They are able to play the holes in less shots than the expert player we just described who makes a par on every hole. They are that good. It takes them under the amount of shots that having pars on every hole would add up to. They are said to be under par. They make lots of birdies. They have the ability to play par 3 holes in just 2 shots. They complete lots of the par 4 holes in just 3 shots. And they hit the ball so long on the par 5 holes that they often get birdies and sometimes eagles. So, for instance, if Annika goes out and she has 10 pars and 8 birdies, she's had a round of 8 under par. But we all know that nobody's perfect, and even the best golfers in the world don't go under par all the time, which brings us to the phrase over par. Sometimes, say, even Tiger Woods will hit a bad shot or a bad putt and even lose a golf ball on a hole, and it will take him more shots than the par to complete that hole. So, for instance, if he takes 6 shots on a par 5 hole, that's a bogey, and he is said to be over par for that hole. So, an example, during a typical round of 18 holes, just say an average club golfer has 10 pars, 1 great birdie and 7 bogeys. Well, the 1 birdie effectively cancels out one of the bogeys, and in total, that golfer has finished 6 over par, 7 bogeys minus 1 birdie. On a leaderboard, that is always given the symbol plus and a 6. So if that player went out one day, for instance, and had 15 pars, 2 birdies and only 1 bogey, he or she would have a score of 1 under par. On a leaderboard, that would be given the symbol -1. So putting it all together, let's do a big example. Let me tell you a story. So just say you play a full round of golf. You play 18 holes in a big tournament and you had a par on all 18 holes, and your total number of shots added up to 72. You'd be very happy with yourself. A good round of level par. You finish on even par, level par, just like you started. You look up at the TV and there's the leaderboard. Your name is there. It says your name. It has 72 and an E after it for even. Next thing, who walks in the door with a big sad face? Only Rory McIlroy. And he's just shot 75. He was 3 shots over the par. You beat him by 3 shots. On the leaderboard, he's up there just below you. Rory McIlroy, 75 and a +3. That's the way they show 3 over par. He cracks open a beer, non-alcoholic of course, sits in the corner and he starts mumbling something about his damn putter not working. Anyway, the day wears on, and one after another the players come in and nobody can beat your score of level par or even par. You're feeling pretty confident now until you hear a big commotion outside the door. Cameras clicking, crowds clapping. Door bursts open, enter Tiger Woods after signing for 66 shots. A whole 6 shots under the par of 72. He's finished 6 under par on top of the leaderboard. He wins. It says Tiger Woods 66 and -6, which is how they show 6 under on the television. He wins. The next phrase we come to is greens in regulation. Well, the par number for every hole always allows for 2 putts. So on a par 3, you're supposed to hit onto the green with your first shot. And if you do that successfully, you've just hit a green in regulation. On a par 4, hitting onto the green in 2 shots is a green in regulation, and so on for par 5s. Golfer statistics, they'll often feature his or her greens in regulations performance. So if a top player finds 18 of 18 greens in regulation, it means they're playing really well and giving themselves lots of birdie chances on every green. Now, another phrase people ask about is stroke index. Well, on an 18-hole golf course, some holes are harder than others, and when competitions are held, it becomes really apparent pretty quickly the holes that most players find pretty hard and get bogeys and worse on, and the ones they find pretty easy and get birdies and eagles on. So much so, in fact, that all 18 holes can get a ranking of difficulty from 1 to 18. So the hardest hole on the course would be the stroke index 1, and the easiest hole on the course is the stroke index 18. So if you look at a scorecard for any course, just next to the hole number, you will always see its stroke index. So just for instance, if you're standing on the first tee and you see that it's index 15, you don't need to be too worried. It's actually the 4th easiest hole on the golf course. Next question we got in was, what is better, an albatross or a hole-in-one? Interesting question. Well, an albatross is 3 shots under the par, as we described. And a hole-in-one, if it's on a par 3, which it typically is technically 2 shots under the par. In that case, an albatross is better in terms of scoring. But a hole-in-one is like the holy grail of golf. It's celebrated. Everybody wants one. Most golfers will go their whole life without getting one. So in terms of achievement, having a hole-in-one is probably better. It's even tradition that a player who has a hole-in-one has to buy a drink at the bar for everyone afterwards. But wait, there is one other thing. Have you ever considered how a hole-in-one could also be an albatross or 3 under par? And that's like having a hole-in-one on a par 4, and would you believe it has been done 6 times actually on the PGA Tour. Now, I hope this explained a few phrases, and if you enjoyed this video, please do press like and subscribe to the Golf Bidder YouTube channel. Please also send in your questions and we'll make more videos like this. Follow Golf Bidder across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram to keep up to date with the very latest. From me for now though, it's Donal, out.